always takes a moment because there's the video.
All right, yeah. Just intro while I.
Hey, what's up, everybody? What's up, gamers? Today we are joined by Jayde, aka theythem on Twitter. It's your favorite Melee radio show, aptly titled Radio Melee, and can't wait to talk to a bunch of you wonderful people out there live on air. As always, for those of you following along on YouTube, you're watching every week, but you're thinking, how do I get on the call? How do I actually talk to Toph and PP one of these weeks? Come by on a Tuesday and just either one of our Twitch chats, !Radio Melee. Longtime listeners know the drill. You can hop on air and actually just ask us questions, provide us with your hot takes, talk to us about whatever's on your mind. But before that, we're going to do a little chatting over here with Jayde. How are y'all doing?
Thank you for having me. Doing pretty decent. Funny you ask, like almost exactly 2 hours ago, just secured helping staff at LTC this coming 2 weekends, 1 weekend, time's a social construct. But yeah, that's really exciting. Especially because like social quarantine for me and my household is pretty strict, and so like I can't do any LAN tournaments if it's not like a gig, like considered work. But
sure,
more opportunities to see people and just help out, and I'm super excited for that.
And you were at Riptide. You were also pretty much, that was a gig for you, right?
Yeah. Oh, Riptide was so much fun. Ran so smooth. I was so surprised.
It was awesome. Yeah, as someone who was there, it was really a pleasure to just first of all be at an offline tournament again for the first time in ages, and also just to see how well everything came together for what was really the first tournament in a series. This isn't Riptide 2, Riptide 3, this is just Riptide. So I was really proud of everybody for getting it done ahead of schedule. It felt like a lot of the time.
Oh, yeah, we were pretty much on it. I think a lot of what Contra and I, as like the volunteer coordinators on staff, what we went into it was thinking like, okay, this is the first LAN major back technically, and so what sort of things are we going to really make sure, and not to say experiment with, but like what can we strategize in terms of like what can we do for like COVID safety, what can we do for like distancing, how are the logistics of like taking that into account going to work? We put a lot of thought into it going into it.
Let me tell you, most offline tournaments I go to, the tournament venue is very close to the airport. There was a whole shuttle system that was running like through the night, on the hour, every hour, that was really, really well coordinated. It felt like super easy to understand, like kind of how that worked. I was really impressed with that for like how kind of in the middle of nowhere this place was. I actually had a question for you though, Jayde, because maybe this is me being out of the loop in terms of NorCal Melee, because for a couple of years there, I was really not going to that many locals. I was kind of only going to majors and all this stuff. I feel like in terms of like working much of these like huge, like, complicated events. Okay, when I think of Jayde, what I've come to learn is that basically you are the person that puts the Discord server together. You are the person that kind of, takes an event. And I gained a lot of respect for, I think, TOs when I had to do this myself I did a chess tournament at the beginning of the year for 8 Smashers, literally only 8 Smashers. And that felt like I was putting together the Discord server. I was like, this is crazy. And I saw your whole workflow and I was like blown away as someone who's been there and done it. And in my opinion, I think I did a pretty mad job. I was like, this is insane. This is so much preparation. But I feel like until Riptide, at least, I feel like you did more online events. Was Riptide like one of the first like big offline things you really like staffed at in a major way, or have you been doing offline events for a long time as well?
Good question. So I got into Melee at the same time I started TOing, which was like 2015.
Oh wow.
And so a lot of my early years, like TOing for NorCal was really on a local level. Like I was the head
Mhm.
of like my college's Smash scene, and so I did a lot of like basically all my tournaments primarily through that. And Riptide was literally my first out of region tournament. Like I've never been to a tournament outside of like NorCal or just like California in general. But I think other kind of notable stuff I helped out with, what is it? The first tournament Brandon and I did, Wombo Combo 10th anniversary about like
Oh,
3-ish years ago.
Yeah,
Ooh,
that tournament was
great event.
awesome. They had
felt
the Zoo
so
versus Silent Spectre and Lucky or Silent Spectre and Tang wobble cover run back and oh, it's so good.
There was cake. It was such good cake. I still think about cake to this day.
There was Wombo Combo Cake.
Mm-hmm.
You did that.
Yeah.
That was a phenomenal event. Yeah, I was at that. I commentated like a lot at that event. It was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Was that the first time you really worked in close? Because over the Rollback Rumble days, I feel like the faces of Rollback Rumble are of course Brandon. I mean, it's on his channel and it's kind of his little baby, but as well, it's pretty much you as well as Nathan Sandwich. I would say these days. Was Wombo Combo Anniversary really the tournament that kind of where you started working with Brandon in a major capacity?
I would say so, yeah. After Wombo Combo 10th anniversary, if you're familiar with like the Melee at the Maid and then the beefed up Melee at the Maid remixes, there was one where Brandon invited Magi, Fat Goku,
Yeah.
KJH, a couple others. I helped out.
I housed them
those.
for that.
Those were also
that was
pretty
a good
fun.
one. Yeah, the
But
Maid
I'd
was
say
so
Wombo
sick.
Combo 10th was definitely like the first time. Technically, like I worked with Brandon the first time there directly, and it was really good. I'm really glad.
What did going to Riptide feel like then? Because it's obviously for me, like I even felt like, oh my god, I haven't done this in so long. I haven't been to an IRL tournament in so long, literally. This feels weird and new and different again. It must have been doubly so from the organizational standpoint, where it must have felt like very. I'm sure it's really different from coordinating an online event, right? I mean, there's physical, there's meat space that you have to account for.
Oh yeah, it was scary. It was a lot in the sense of just like just thinking about COVID stuff and just like my risk profile for COVID, but also just like there is the responsibility when taking up that role of like coordinating volunteers throughout almost like most of the event was like there's also the responsibility of how do I make it so that not setting a good example, but like doing the things that are COVID safe and like telling volunteers to do and like advising, I guess.
Yeah, that seems like really PP. Have you ever like coordinated and have you ran any
No,
online or offline tournaments or done
no,
that ever?
no.
I've
It's
only
funny.
done like one little online thing.
People, it's funny. People would tell me, "Hey, all the other gods have run one. Leffen's run one. You need to run one." And I was like, "Well, I never thought about it like that." So,
You could do one.
yeah. I mean, I imagine I'd put it together about like you put together that Discord server, Toph. I can't imagine that I have really any background or anything. We'd have to talk to Jade about it, get some help probably. But
Yeah.
I'm down.
Yeah.
to figure something out. But yeah, if you guys don't know, we've got Jade on here today, a TO that as you can hear has worked with Rollback Rumble, but has worked with a lot of other events and now including offline ones, which sounds like they did a phenomenal job with it. And also, I wanted to highlight Jade as a non-binary gamer in the Melee community. And we were talking beforehand, and their story actually is really interesting because as they were telling me as they grew as a TL, they also learned more about themselves, which I think is just a great story for anyone in the community, but certainly people that are looking to find themselves. So I didn't know that before getting them on, but that's a great bonus to hear about that. And so we can either get into that now or we can get into community voice and callers. But I wanted to kind of make that clear just from the get-go so there wasn't any confusion.
Jade, how do you feel? You want to talk about that at the end, or you want to talk about that now? Because I'm that sounds like a cool story too.
Yeah.
I'm super down to get into it now. I do have one thing I want to add to what I said earlier.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like Toph, you mentioned about like needing to take in like the physical space of a venue too when it
Yeah.
comes to like LAN events versus like online events. The way my TOing style works is that the physical space and the logistics of how you're going to set everything up and
Mhm.
how the natural flow of people is going to just happen. The closest equivalent for that for net play tournaments to me is the Discord space. Like that is
Oh.
the
Oh.
space that people are in. And so one big thing that like both learning during the pandemic, but like also in general is like how do I adapt my approach to like optimizing the logistics of like a physical space? How do I bring that onto like a Discord and like what is good flow for like players? What's good flow for like staff when it comes to like a space that is a Discord like server?
There's not like a, I guess there's not like a TO handbook or anything that talks about like optimizing that or allowing for people to be coordinated in such a way where they're in groups so they're more likely to just be able to know who they're going to play sooner or something like that. You just have to kind of figure that up and make that up for yourself, I guess.
Oh yeah, big trial and error, and also just like not being afraid of like asking other TOs, you know?
Mm.
Like if somebody has more experience in like another aspect, just there's so much to learn about TOing, and there's just like there's no like cap on like how much you can learn and how much you can improve.
Do you feel like other TOs were always willing to help you and work with you?
Ooh, I have to think about that one, mostly
Good
because
question.
I'm trying to think about like what era is this question about? Because I guess like yeah, it's a really hard question.
Okay. Well, if there are, I guess, qualifiers to it, then I mean, we can go for today, right? If there are any aspiring TOs out there, they might want to know how easy would it be to work with their fellow colleagues to learn things, because like you said, there are so many things to learn about that. How easy would it be for them to get into the TOing space and to contact their peers and learn more?
Like nowadays it's much more accessible to like find information or like find the people who have the information you want to learn. And like
Mm.
TOs in general are very open and down to like spread the joy of like running tournaments, especially uh during COVID, because like everything is online and like we're all just communicating through each other like in this format.
Hmm.
It's easier and like more accessible to just be like, oh, I'm literally just gonna shoot you a DM and ask some questions, and you know, worst case, they don't answer, but best case, you know, they recommend you other people, they talk to you, they discuss. Like, yeah, I'd say in the present sense, it's very accessible to be able to like obtain that information as like a new TO looking to like learn.
Cool.
You know what that actually reminds me a lot of? That reminds me a lot of like how I've heard controller modders in the kind of controller modder community talk about. I mean, you look at a couple years ago, I remember when the only person doing it at any scale was Typo. And then you fast forward to today, and I mean, there are like just top quality controller modders all over the place. I feel like almost every local scene has at least one. And I think I feel like it's very collaborative when I talk to any of them. I feel like they all kind of bounce ideas off each other. In a very similar way to how Jayde you just described with TOing, which I think is neat. That a lot of these kind of subdisciplines, if you will, have kind of become more and more collaborative, especially over the more online era and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's also really like interesting to that like at least in my experience and like from what I've observed, it's nowadays TOs are like TOs specialize in things. Everyone specializes in a thing. But like nowadays, TOs have more ability to like do other roles that they may not have like had access or like the knowledge to do that role beforehand. Like I don't want to say like you could switch people out, but like really core important things, like more people are learning that, and I think that's like super notable.
What would you say, and I mean, granted, this answer may have changed over the years, given that obviously now you've done Riptide, you're going to LTC next. But at least maybe you used to think, what do you think your specialty or your specialization was? Did you have something you kind of prided yourself on, or?
I'm gonna rein myself in because I could just talk
No,
about the
don't
inner workings of my brain.
Don't rein yourself in. Just geek out as much as you want.
It's hard to say like what my TO like core style was for the first couple years, because like literally for the first like what 4.5 years of like me TOing, it was just like I'm just running cool tournaments because I like to see melee happen, but I'm just doing stuff. And then coming into like now, I would say like my specialization when it comes to TOing is, I guess, like logistics optimization and like streamlining communication flow between multiple different groups of people, which counts as logistics actually.
Can you explain a little bit how you differentiate yourself there? Because to me, those are buzzwords and I don't understand anything. I am a child. You have to educate me.
Oh, that's fair. Where'd that thought go? Ooh, yes. Okay. So when I'm thinking of like what I mentioned earlier, how like, okay, so a lot of logistics that I focus / I guess now focus on when it comes to like LAN, is like, there's like, you have the floor space, floor space. And have any of you seen the movie The Founder?
No.
No.
There's this.
Is it good?
It's about basically the origin story of McDonald's. But one notable scene that has stuck with me is when it came to like the scene of like, oh yes, we're gonna plan out the floor plan of like where things are in this fast food kitchen. They went to a tennis court. They by scale delineated how much space there was, and using like tape and like chalk, they set up like where things would go, and they made everyone practice that. And I'm not saying I do that, but I definitely think a lot about like the floor space. How can I orient setups, the TO desk, the check-in area, like signs to direct people? How do I take those and orient them to where it's as easy as possible to either find or like it's as easy as possible to access?
And that reminds me of, remember this stuff when Hotbit was talking about doing that for the summit setup, like how he said there was so much thought that went into the placement of every little thing. That's very interesting.
Where the food is served, where the commentator couch is relative to the camera, you know, how much space to allot to people in the back and stuff like that. Yeah, and it's PP. Maybe I'll just show it to you later. You got to see. Jayde has a, what do you call it, like a guide or a document? I've seen kind of, it's what, I don't know if there's a name of it, but it's basically, this is how, I mean, I've only seen it done for the online tournaments, right? So I've seen Jayde's guide to like how to set up, again, the Discord server and how to make it as obvious as possible for like someone coming in. Because like, okay, as a commentator, I'll often have questions for like, and I'll want to know who to ask and like where to find this information. And you can really set up, I mean, and this is obviously, I think, magnified tenfold when it comes to an offline tournament. But online, even, you know, there's so many tournaments where there's definitely events that I've I've worked where it's really, really easy, and I'm just really impressed by how easy they made it to find information. And there's events that might be newer or something where that's not the case, and I'm scrambling, and I'm like, I gotta ask the head TO, and then the head TO doesn't want to answer my stupid questions about what have you, right? They've got more important things to do.
Right.
So, you see it a lot. You see it a lot, and Jade's got this. Yeah, what is it? What do you call it? A document? What? You know what I'm talking about, right, Jade?
Is it one of just the Twitter threads where I just ramble about optimization of Discord servers?
Yes.
There's-
And down to like, yes, and it was down to like, these are the emojis you use to like make it really obvious.
Oh yeah.
Like, for the channel names, like where to go for this.
Sure.
Yeah. Like I mentioned a little bit earlier, how like taking my approach to like optimizing a physical venue and like adapting that to a Discord server, which is like the venue for net play tournaments, basically, was like challenging in the good way, because I have to take all like the thoughts of like communication flows, as in like, oh, at a LAN tournament, if you want to ask a TO a question, you could just go up to the TO desk.
Right.
But like early on, when it came to net play tournaments, something I've learned is that like one example of like a communication flow is like, oh, I'm observing a lot of net play tournaments, including some of my earlier ones, where like there isn't a channel where people can specifically just ask questions. So like the TOs will get pinged in like 5 different general chats with a random question. And so I thought, how do I make the communication flow of players to TOs when it's just like asking all the questions? How do I make it more streamlined and easy and like consolidated to where you can just go to that channel and be like, oh yeah, let me just answer all these questions, because like less keystrokes, less typing, but like it's just optimal, But like setting up
optimal.
a channel for like, oh yeah, this one is specifically just for questions, like ask a TO, was like one example of just like, oh yeah, like that is how I streamline communication of like players to TOs. I think it's super notable to also think about the staff side, like when it comes to staff specific servers, because then it's like not only are the players experiencing it, it's also like how smooth your team runs also depends on like how set up, and I don't want to say organized, but how streamlined your Discord server is. Like you want things to be easy to find. Like take 5 days of Melee. Sometimes when I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that one thing, and I want to go back and I just want to try to find it, there are so many channels, and I get overwhelmed, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna have a struggle. And then when it came to like improving my own like staff servers and tournament servers, it's like, okay, how do I make things as easy to find, easy to like differentiate things from each other, like categories of channels? Like this is obviously the channels for like production, this is the channel for like content, etc.
Yeah, Rollback Rumble, the big one, was like a really good example of this, because I remember as I might have had like, it was so cool how there was like, I remember there was like there were roles and server group or channel groups for like specific commentary for specific days. So you jump into the server and there was obviously there's a shitload of channels, but it was immediately like, okay, today is Saturday, or Saturday. Like this is the area I need to look for, like what I need to do today, and like you can immediately just trim out all the other stuff from your mind, because obviously there's a lot in there that you need to somehow filter through. I thought that was really, really smart when I was helping out with that event. That was really, really cool.
Oh, thank
just
you.
as one little example.
But yeah, the big one was ambitious on all fronts. But like with commentary, it was like, wow, Brandon and I were just like, you know what? We love all the homies who are commentating. Let's just have them all on, basically. And then I sat back and I was like, wow, these are a lot of commentators. And then I was like, well, another thing of like optimizing logistics, like the big one prep was like, I'm doing many things, and like optimizing things means I like shave off a little bit of time instead of pinging like the 10 commentators for like Saturday, for example, I will just
Yes.
make specific roles for the big days, like Saturday, Friday, Thursday, Sunday, and just
Yeah.
I can just at one thing and be like, okay, here's your information, here's your stuff. I don't need to at like 10 different things. Optimal.
Not only was that awesome probably for you because you could literally just at the role. For me, I remember I was like, man, what days do I commentate at? I went in, I hovered over my name. It was like Thursday commentary, Saturday commentary. I was like, got it. I'm busy Thursday and Saturday. I'm done. I'm out of here. Like it was like so easy. Yeah, I don't know. I thought that was genius. I thought that was like super genius. But anyway,
Thank you.
yeah. I mean, I just think this kind of thing is fascinating. Not that I do it myself very much, but I have a lot of respect for the craft.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not something that everyone thinks about, which I always feel like is cool. I feel like getting people to think about things that they don't always think about is neat. It's like a whole subcategory of content on YouTube, right? I don't know. I always get these videos that are like, yesterday I was watching a video about here's how here's how a jet engine works such that it's okay if somehow a bird accidentally flies into it. And it was like, I was watching this video and I was like, wow, I sure have never thought about this problem before, but I'm glad that I'm learning about it.
Yeah, I think it's pretty notable for like tournament running specifically too. Because like, I would say like a couple years ago, like it was a sort of thing where like TOs and like what goes into running tournaments wasn't like, I don't want to say like an acknowledged thing, but like knowing what exactly goes into them was super niche, pretty specialized. Like not many players really knew exactly what into them. But like nowadays, like more TOs, more access to information, more ability to just talk to other people in the community. I would say that like people do have like a general sense of like, oh, the kind of like branches and teams that go into like running a tournament.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like I love I've loved learning about a lot of this, and I'm glad we've taken the time to do it. I think it's been super cool. It sounds like you're really knowledgeable about it, honestly, which is awesome because I think this is going to prove so valuable for I think a lot of the people that do call in. And once again, I will encourage everyone to do that exclamation radio melee in mine and Toph's chat.
That's right.
Join the server, submit topics here. You can ask question for Jayde or Toph and myself. Jayde, of course, having a lot of experience with TOing, as you've just heard, but also their experience as a non-binary gamer in the Melee community and how that's been. So I'm certainly interested to learn more about all of that. But I think right before we get into questions and everything there, I would like to take a moment to check out our community voice answers from last week. So I think we had a couple, and I believe I don't remember the question fully, but I'm sure it'll be on screen in a moment.
Provided by IBDW. It was like the tournament, essentially, which tournament would you want to go to if you've never, been to this tournament or if you've never been to a tournament? Which tournament would you want to go to? KennyTheKid responding, I feel like Genesis 8 is the tournament to go to since it'll be the tourney that everyone will go to since quarantine, simply put, started back in early 2020. I think Genesis 8 is going to be huge. Yeah, I think okay, well, I mean, I'm NorCal, as is Jayde. I feel like for NorCal denizens in particular, it's an easy tournament to recommend. I only have to drive 30, 40 minutes to get there, but even if I wasn't, I mean, Genesis 1 was awesome too, and 3 onwards. I mean, every Genesis tournament has been really, really special. I mean, we've geeked out about it on Radio Melee several times at this point, but I'm really looking forward to that one. I think it's going to be a phenomenal event.
As a TO, I guess really quick, Jayde, I mean, how do you feel about Genesis?
That's a great question. For Genesis, Sheridan passed the Melee director roles to Nathan Sandwich and me. So for Genesis 8, that's going to be really exciting.
Wow.
And like a really good challenge, I think.
What is Sheridan's role then?
Head TO, I guess?
Yeah, it's still like head director of like everything, I would say.
I see. You're specifically the Melee.
Oh yeah, like he doesn't need to go in the deep dive to see how Melee's doing. He can just ask one of us, and we'll make sure stuff is going and everything.
Cool.
Got it.
was there another answer, or was that the only community? There we go. There's another.
Here we
one.
go. Punk. Community choice. I'm from New England, so Shine is the obvious answer. I've also heard that Shine is really good for people who want to. I hear this too. I hear there are a ton of setups at Shine.
Yeah.
Really good for people who want to find setups and play with a lot of different people outside of tournament time or after getting eliminated. I'm not a particularly competitive person, so just being able to play more and not having my melee time be restricted to competing really appeals to me.
That's pretty cool. And I think it really prioritizes the in-person experience. Now, I think maybe at like scale like Genesis, it'd be really hard to have setups for everyone. I don't really know. Again, not a TO. Luckily, we have TOs on call here to validate whatever nonsense I say. But I do like that Shine has prioritized that. And it seems to, I mean, for competitive people, it appeals to them because they get to keep playing. For people that aren't trying to compete as seriously, they still just get to play. So, it gets you more bang for your buck, which I think is pretty nice.
I will say that over the years, like number of setups or just like not even specifically the number, but just general feel for like the average player, how easy was it for me to just like be able to sit down and play friendly somewhere without feeling like all of the TVs were taken up all the time? That's like a consistent thing that pretty much everyone, that's like a consistent metric that pretty much everyone uses to evaluate like how fun a tournament was to go to. Like you always hear it. Like people are like, man, this tournament was so fun to go to because they had all these friendly setups. I got to play, man, I got to play with this guy. I got to play with these people, play doubles with these people. Man, great tournament. Like you always hear that.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. I mean, I will say that from my experience, I feel like Genesis has always been pretty good about it. You know, I was geeking out about Air the other time too, Air 5. And Air 5 actually at the time broke the record by a lot for number of setups at a tournament, which was the reason that in spite of having over 1,000 entrants, they actually did round robin pools. In fact, they did 2 waves of round robin pools.
Oh,
yeah, that sounds impossible, right?
Oh,
I was like, there's no way this isn't going to work. You can't do 1,000 entrants and do round robin pools.
Ambitious.
Like, and it worked, and it ran on time, and
Incredible.
I was like, that's crazy.
Huh.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I was really impressed. And yeah, number of setups. They hit like 150 setups, I think. It was
That's
like
a lot of setups.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was really impressive. I have a lot of respect for the Air team over there in the UK. They know what they're doing.
Mhm.
But anyway. Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, so I love hearing about majors, but I also want to hear from the people, the good people out there.
I love hearing from the people.
Yeah, so let's see if we can bring our first caller in today. We've got Jeffthaniel, if I'm saying that right.
Jeffthaniel.
Maybe not. You can correct me, but hello, Jeffthaniel. Where are you calling in from, and what's your question for us today?
Hi guys, yes, it is Jeffthaniel. I'm calling from Indiana. I don't think we've been repped yet.
Let's go.
Yeah, that's Indiana. There's always a first time.
And just some context to preface my question. I'm a part of a small community for an esports game called Laser League. The previous developers kind of left it for dead, but we are getting a free-to-play re-release, and we're really trying to start up a movement and gain traction towards the game. And Melee is often referred to as a grassroots game and community, and it's definitely my biggest inspiration when I think about spearheading the movement. So my question for you all is kind of a doozy, some multiple parts, but how was Melee before it became Melee? How did the community do its part to bring it where it is today? And what are some things that I can consider when trying to build a big community?
This is a cool question.
Wow.
Holy cow, I love this question. Man, I mean, Melee before it was a lot. I mean, most of my time when I was competing was before it was the Melee. So I'm very aware of how that was. I mean, back then there was the community was a lot more, we'll say, rugged, and I mean this in a positive and not so positive way. Obviously, the positive being people were willing to drive hours just to play friendlies with someone, or and for tournaments even longer. And I mean, M2K would just go around on buses just going to tournaments, and that's all he did. I mean, so I think there was a real spirit of, we love this game and we are willing to do anything for it. And I think that spirit just brought a lot of moments. It brought us Wombo Combo, honestly, and that was something that, while it was funny because we were like, well, everyone knows Wombo Combo, but no one wants to play Melee. This is unfair, right? So
Yeah.
we had all of these like we had things that could come out and people could hear about Melee a little bit, but they wouldn't play, and that drove us crazy. But the thing is, we just kept playing because we loved it. It was just awesome, and I think if there's one thing I can tell you is just love your scene. I mean, because with that, I mean, Samok started working on the documentary. He was working on it before Evo happened, before we got back into Evo. So I mean, because of the storylines there, that made that happen. So I mean, the more that you develop storylines, the more that you create interest in I guess players of every level, sure, but interest in players of high level worked for us. And in some other parts of the FGC, I think they think our quote hero worship is weird. So maybe that's not your style, but I'm just telling you about how it was for us. So those storylines were valuable, and yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I mean, maybe I'll just stop it there and let Toph and Jayde handle it. But yeah, I think loving the game. If I could give you one thing, and that would be it.
Yeah. I won't say too much. I'll let Jayde generally go first, but I will say that that's kind of a common sentiment. Is just like the game carries. The game's got to be good.
Ooh, tough questions. I don't know if I feel qualified to speak on the first two of like how was Melee before it really became Melee, and like how did the community do its part then to bring it where it is today. Mostly because like I mentioned earlier, like I got into Melee 2015, and I guess I'm not technically a newbie, but there are times where like I definitely check myself and like I feel like a newbie because like I don't know like as much as a lot of like old school and like other people know of like the culture of Melee before it became like big. Yeah, tough questions. Those are the kind of really good questions. They're also the type of questions I would like have to introspect, like reflect, and like really think about deeply.
Yeah, and it's tough, right? Because this is live. You're on the spot. So no worry if you want to pass. I mean, we have guests sometimes they're like, I think Plup one time was like, I'm not answering this. You could do whatever you want here.
I mean, here's the thing. It's tough because I feel like the way games grow today is somewhat different in a lot of ways from the ways games grew back then. And you can look no further than like kind of the streaming meta and the content meta and stuff like that. And I feel like Melee was very lucky because Melee had first of all, Melee was like, or is a really, really good game. And like people, even before Melee was getting super big during like, kind of the Evo era and like after the doc came out, the game still had a pretty sizable following. Like, Smash Bros was pretty active back then. And, Melee was out for a long time before Brawl came out, which I think had part to do with kind of how this ended up being the case. But yeah, if I was doing this with like, I guess my answer, like what Melee did to bring Melee to where it is today, would actually be a little bit different from what I would do if I was in charge of growing a small modern indie esports game community. And I will say that like with Melee, it was extremely organic. Like the doc was a thing, and the doc was, the shout outs to Samox, right? Samox's Melee documentary was, aka the Smash Brothers, was huge, but even the Smash Brothers was only really possible because the Melee community had so much lore and backstory already with, the KennyTheKid and Mewtwo King, PC Chris, and all that stuff, right? And so, and then what kind of made all that stuff happen was, I mean, part of that was like MLG, for example. And I also just think that there was kind of 2001 through the early 2000s were sort of this interesting time in fighting games in general, where like, for a while there weren't that many new. I mean, when you think about the gap between when Melee came out and when Brawl came out, there weren't that many new games coming out for a while. So, you look at, for example, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, right? The gap between that and Marvel 3, which came out in 2009. So there were a lot of games that had pretty storied communities, like getting into the mid to late 2000s, I think. And that's why you had these, this wealth of tournament lore and community lore that made things like the documentary even possible. And yeah, of course, if I was doing it today, if I had to do it today, I mean, again, I think the number one thing that I think cannot be overstated is that you can growth hack and you can, like do all this stuff that like should work in theory. And at the end of the day, like I feel like a big part of it is just how good the game is. Like PP said originally, I'm just echoing PP sentiment here. Like if the game is really, really, really good and people want to play it, and I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into how good the game is. Like I think a lot of people overstate, other way around. I think a lot of people understate how important, for better and for worse, how important I think the Smash Brothers and Nintendo IP is to Melee. People have tried to make kind of, Melee clones that aren't really using Nintendo IP over the years, but I think that a lot, whether people want to admit it, I think that with Smash Bros in particular, I think a lot of the reason people do kind of get drawn to it is because they are this colorful cast of characters that people have a lot of nostalgia for. But I think that goes into the quality of the game, and I think there's a lot of things you can say about what the community did. But I think we've always had that really strong backbone of like, and Mango. Mango said this in a really eloquent way on his stream one time, but he was saying something like, the crux of it was like, hey, even if everyone else quits and moves on to whatever the hell, blah 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 blah, I'll be 50 years old, playing Falcon Dittos with whoever the hell, in my rocking chair, if that's what the community comes down to, And I don't know that every game people would go to bat for like that. So that's just something to consider.
I want Jeffthaniel, and I think the name of the game was Laser League, but I could be wrong. I want that game to have hope. So
yeah,
I was thinking while you were talking, Toph, I was like, man, let me
look it up right now.
think what was something that the community did that was like really cool for Melee. And I realized that a big part of our culture, and this is very interesting because it's something that we don't do so much now, but it's something we did all the time before we blew up, was combo videos. And I was thinking about the purpose of combo videos, not as like a thing in themselves, but how it sustained the community. And I was thinking about how every time someone dropped a new combo video, like usually people watched it because there wasn't a ton of content that wasn't tournaments, but everyone wanted to see a combo video. Like, what was the editing going to be like? Were you going to learn something new? Who was it performed on? Like or what is a showcase like about this rising region or player or something? You would always be kind of curious. So I don't know. You mean maybe you guys call it montages or something, or maybe this is not your thing, right? And it ties into a little bit to what Toph was talking about with content, but maybe the thing about combo videos was it got us excited. It got us thinking about the possibilities in Melee. It got us wanting to learn more and discover more. Like you would watch a combo video and then be like, oh, I want to play that character, or I just want to play Melee. That was cool, right? Like if there's stuff like that going on and you can feed that into playing with someone, you can feed that into discussion and wherever that is, probably on a Discord server for you guys, but the easier you can make that, the communications workflow, the buzzwords that I have learned today, I will use them now. But if the easier you can make it for people to join the community, be excited, and to keep that excitement going through their process, I would say is something that we did really well and probably led into a lot of growth as well. So that's something I could add for you, and hopefully that's helpful.
If you can get one, like, dude, if you could get one, whatever the equivalent of a combo, it could be like a montage or something. And this kind of ties into, it's funny because, the way we market stuff today is different than how we used to do it. And yet some things are kind of similar if you know where to look. Like, I think we even talked about this on Radio Melee before. What I think would, if you could get like, I don't know, if there was a way to, like, the best case scenario was like a sick montage for your game, or like, I mean, it could even be tournament highlights, but it could also just be like combo video footage, right? The style, like people was saying, where people literally would just curate it from their own, whatever, their own matches. Like if you can get a single one of those sorts of videos to like go a little bit viral, like that just would do wonders. I feel like so much of like picking up a new competitive game for a lot of people is like you see someone play it at a very high level and you're like, oh damn, this looks cool. What is this? Can I do this? You know, and that's like that's what you want to get people to feel. And
Yeah.
I think melee combo videos did that in spades.
Yeah.
Like you watch one, you'd be like, oh, this is so cool. Like I want to do stuff like this, you know? So
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I think we've given you a lot there, Jeffthaniel. Hopefully that
Hope
answered
so.
your question fairly well, and you're inspired to go and bring your game forth.
Everybody check out Laser League. Available on Steam? Is it available on Steam?
Yeah, so right now we're prepping for a re-release. It's going free to play, which hopefully is going to be really
Mm.
good for the community.
Yeah.
Just touching a little bit on your guys' notes. I know I've been on for a little bit now. About like the combo video craze, and I think it still does come up even nowadays. You know, Ultimate, some of the best content comes from the short little online compilations of clips,
Mhm.
sometimes with like memes on it and such. And
It's
so that
literally how AlphaRad got to 1 million subscribers, right?
right, yeah. And so that's inspired us to take the social media approach because we don't have the Link and Mario and those IPs to back us up. And so
He's
we're
running the Yingling campaign. He's doing it all through Twitter.
Yeah.
but yeah, this has been great, guys. A lot of stuff to consider.
All right, well,
Best of luck.
good luck, and hopefully we'll see you in Laser League around.
Yeah. Am I good to make some shout outs?
Make some shout outs.
Absolutely, please do.
I appreciate it. So, yeah, big shout outs to the Laser League Discord and subreddit. You know, we are trying our best. Shout outs to Sunken City Games in Michigan and Connor or Nergerino. I miss you guys dearly. And shout outs to the Chilluminati and Chillin' Dude. That's my dog.
That's my
Nice.
dog.
Let's go. All right, take care, gamer.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Oh my. Well, I wasn't expecting that today. But,
That's a good question.
that's a good question.
People, let me tell you, Radio Melee callers, man. Radio
They hit
Melee
different.
callers, they got those, they got them brain cells activated,
Let's see what-
firing.
I'm
know what
ready
I'm
for Pjoncho's next question.
Oh, we got Pjoncho back. What's up,
Back
Pjoncho?
at it once again. What's up,
That's
Pjoncho?
right.
Where are you calling in from? What's your question today, gamer? You're
Hey
muted.
guys, sorry. I got overwhelmed by both the Twitch stream and also PPMD's voice at the same time. Hey, this is Pjoncho again. I don't know how many times it's been now. Calling in from New Jersey.
Love New
Question
Jersey.
for us
I
today.
actually don't. I don't love New Jersey,
I don't
but it's
love
fine.
New Jersey either.
I
but-
love Pjoncho.
but I like Pjoncho.
I'm sorry, but also flattered. Thank you. Holy cow, what even was my question? I was playing Tetris for like the past 10 minutes. Okay, yeah, here we go. Okay, so I wanted to ask, aside from main events like Melee and Ultimate Singles usually, what considerations go into which side events or other games get featured in the lineup at any given tournament?
I'd love to hear the answer to this question.
Yeah.
That's a cool question.
Is there any public outreach? Do like say like community members or like game developers ever reach out with like an event in mind, or is it ever vice versa? Do like the TOs ever reach out? And if so, like what exactly are you looking for when you're considering like a certain side event or something like that?
Such a good
for your
question.
event?
I'm very curious about this.
Oh, funny you ask this, because I would say for a lot of the, at least like LAN majors, the few ones that like I've been helping out with, I wasn't in like an admin role for those things to make those like decisions of like what side events and what games. So my answer is only coming from my experience, which is like locals, regionals, monthlies, and then like net play majors and like regionals and all that. I would say personally, part of the reason I TO is because I love to see melee happen and I love to see sick melee happen. So I think what's fun? What do I love watching? What do I think there should be more tournaments for? So like me being NorCal loves teams. I love teams. I always try to have doubles in my like events. But for the big one in particular, when it was just like, okay, wow, these are a lot of days we gotta plan stuff for, and like, what do we want to have at this event? And Brandon and I were on similar wavelengths where it was just like, you know what? What's really fun that should get more screen time? And so we were just like, not just doubles, but like volleyball doubles is like sick and just very niche, but is super fun to watch every time I see it. Like Wolf bracket's pretty interesting. Just like I always love to see like Gale bracket, Smash Sister crew battles in general. So it can be super hard to just not even just like plan out, but like corral everyone. You know, like scheduling is the true enemy for crew battles. But when it falls together, I love crew battles. Like
I love crew battles.
Really, it's just like
I also love crew battles.
what is fun? What do I think is going to be super sick to have at my tournaments? And like, you know what? Yeah, let's run it. Is usually how my thought process goes.
So I'm curious, do you have any control over what is run at Gensis? Because you're the maybe not, but I was kind of curious what your understanding or experience with that was, because I know they run 64 there a lot of the time, and I think Rivals has been there. And I don't know if you have any knowledge about what other TOs do to make those decisions. Like, is it good to try and bring in people that are in Smash or at least closely related to Smash for that? Or you know, how do you decide when to bring in like Street Fighter or Marvel or something? Is that just if there's enough time and space, or because you know those often aren't going to get as many entrants? Like, is that a consideration? Is that something that you are thinking about right now, or is that not something yet? I'm just kind of curious.
That's also a good question. In regards to Genesis, I don't know how much like I can influence exactly when it comes to like suggesting other side events and side games specifically. But I will say, I was asked like I think like a month or two ago, like, oh yeah, like if there's anything that you can think of that you miss Genesis having, or like you think would be cool to have Genesis, just let us know. And I was like, okay, I want to bring back the RPS single elim bracket tournament. Like, I need that in my life. Like, please. It's just like this like deep calling. Like, I need to make it happen.
Beautiful.
Like, yeah.
Really the highest level melee you could achieve.
We just had on
yeah.
a guy that was like, please say word Laser League, and you're like, nope, RPS at Genesis.
Your mind game.
No, I love
There
it.
was one year, I believe it was Genesis 4, where that was the year, or I mean, not that this only happened for 1 year, but at least that was the year that a lot of NorCal was really into Catherine, competitive Catherine, and Sheridan reached out and we put a Catherine side bracket together at Genesis 4, which was super fun, obviously. I think I actually did TO that. And it's the only thing I think it's the only bracket I've ever ran on Smash G. And it was really, really cool that happened. And I think that just kind of happened because Sheridan had as you know, excellent magical drop 3 or magical drop 2 or whatever it is player. I think Sheridan has an innate interest in puzzle games, and this competitive puzzle game, wave was hitting NorCal, and he was like, you know what, fuck it, let's run it. And and it was awesome. It was really good. And I'm really glad that happened. And who knows? Maybe one day if it's in the cards, we'll bring it back. But yeah, that was. I think that was literally just because Sheridan just thought it was dope.
What's funny about this is I've heard about how developers will pay to get their games into certain places or whatever, and for us it's just like, man, what would be cool? It'd be cool if we just did.
Isn't
this.
that? Oh yeah, isn't that when you really get down to it? This is something I've kind of sort of slowly realized over the years. Like in esports, that kind of happens a lot. Like when you look at I don't know, like even talking to Hotbit when Hotbit was first pitching Melee at ESL and eventually, you read his whole write up about how he was, he's very old school. A lot of that stuff I think was just because he thought Melee was dope and he like wanted to pitch it and he wanted to run it, and like now that I've got, I think about kind of like esports as a whole and how it runs a lot of the time and how the sustainability works. And, a lot of the time you've just got people who want to do cool things that, I feel like that's so much of what makes just competitive gaming as a whole work is like that. And if you didn't have that at the core, like if you didn't have those people that are motivated more by that drive than by money, I just don't think the industry would stand up at all. Golden Guardians, look at Golden Guardians, right? Like the people on the team, now that I've gotten to meet, so many of the people that run things here at Golden Guardians behind the scenes, I've kind of come to realize, like, I think a lot of the reason, we're doing what we're doing in terms of Melee content is because it just seemed cool to do. And now it's like, screw it, let's do it.
I think that's more true with Melee though, and than a lot like other games.
A lot of esports, I think, when you really get down to it. At least when they started. Maybe
I'm not
it's kind of
about
grown past
I'm
that
not
to a
talking
certain
about
degree.
then. Yeah, I mean, I think now it's a little different, but yeah, I'm sure everything had to get its start some way like that or another. I agree with that for sure. Did any of this discussion spark anything else with you, Jade?
Just thinking, to be honest, like reflecting.
Okay. Sure. I mean, this is cool. I mean, it'd be nice if this ends up being value, or it ends up causing you to think about things for future tournaments. That'd be great. But I won't interrupt the reflection any further. I'll just say thank you, Pjoncho, for coming on with an excellent question. Really appreciate it.
Of course, yeah. I just wanted to. I guess I wanted to ask like one. Are we running a bit long here?
Well, we started late, but yeah, I mean, if it's a quick one, we can take one more.
Okay, yeah. This is more of a meme question than anything.
Okay.
What do y'all think are the odds of Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl being featured in a Gensis bracket?
Oh gosh.
Almost definitely gonna happen.
Yeah, I feel like it's the potential. Well, it's coming out when? The beginning of next month?
It could be a timing thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like unless it burns out pretty fast, I feel like it's almost certainly gonna be there.
Yeah, it's got to survive the year because I don't think it's going to be a Genesis 8 probably,
Oh,
right?
really?
Because it's like too soon. I mean, maybe it's literally going to be a Genesis 8. I don't know.
I
actually don't know what Genesis
I don't know
8
what the
is.
scheduling is like. Is it if it's finalized? Then no.
Actually,
obviously.
yeah, that's
So
true. It could be a Genesis 8.
It's still maybe it's at a sweet spot where or maybe because it was announced a little bit ago, even maybe Sheridan or whoever is like, well, let's leave space open for it, see what the reception is. Maybe it's not finalized yet. I don't know. I don't pretend to know, but to me, it feels like there's a decent chance it's there. The crossover. Yeah. I mean, so many people have said they're going to stream it. Zane's talking about how he's going to be the best Sandy Cheeks week 1. So we'll see how that pans out.
Toph got leaked, so I will be playing the game. I was not going to play unless they put Toph in. I just really want to confuse people as much as possible with Toph and then parentheses Toph. I want really people to stumble over the words as much as possible when they try to pronounce my name.
This man is tough.
There you go. That's the third one.
Yeah, so certainly I mean, none of I don't think any of us really can make it happen or not.
Oh, it's practically guaranteed.
Yeah, so what we're saying is
I think it'll happen.
Yeah, at some point maybe. Yeah.
At some point, yeah.
Eventually, sure, yeah.
I mean, like, platform fighter games always, Rivals is a longtime mainstay at a lot of majors, right? For example, and I think Slap City was run at Smash Summit, one of those one of the iterations, right? And that's the same devs even. So I think it'll definitely happen.
Yeah, we'll check
if
it
I
out.
had to guess.
But yeah, thank you, Pjoncho. You got any shout outs for us on your way out today?
Of course. Thanks for having me. I'd like to shout out Riptide for having just some amazing events. I particularly really enjoyed following through Melee top 8, and also seeing Rivals in person again for the first time in a while.
Word.
Small shout out.
Really proud of Cake Assault.
Yeah. Really proud of Cake Assault. a little less proud of him for dislocating his shoulder. That sounds kind of rough.
I can't believe that happened.
Really funny. That's
Honestly,
really
it was
funny.
really awesome, and I respect it. So, like, props. He deserves that. Yeah, and also just shout out to Jade and the rest of the TO staff and just TOs in general for
Heck
being
yeah.
perhaps the unsung heroes of many a community, but also but especially the Melee community, I'd say. So yeah, thanks for having me. Have a nice night, y'all.
Thank you.
Have a
You
great
too.
one, Pjoncho.
Hashtag pay the TOs.
I love how much, for example, like Leffen's been doing a pretty good job with this with the Levo series. How he runs a matcherino that I think solely goes to pay staff, which is awesome. Like all of the, it's all to, further support his staff that does work very hard for that series. That I
how
think
much did he raise with that?
Oh, it depends every time, right? It depends on
Is there like an average range or anything?
No idea, but I mean, people contribute. I want to say the last Levo I commentated, I feel like there were a couple like pretty hefty donations, and it ended up being probably I want to say in the $1,000 to $2,000 range from the Matcherino alone, which is pretty good.
It's a start. I don't think it'll solve the problem, but it's cool that it's happening. So
Yeah,
for that,
definitely.
All right. Let's take our next caller. We got Sneck here. Sneck, how's it going? Where are you calling in from? What's your question?
Heck.
Hey, how's it going? Yeah, I'm calling in from Wisconsin.
Shout outs.
Yeah.
What's your question for us today? Sneck from Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
Yeah. So so I was at Riptide. It was pretty hype. It was a good time. And so I was wondering specifically about how you all felt about the COVID spreading prevention methods, performed at
Ooh.
Riptide. This is a big one. And a lot of people are on the fence about majors right now. I'm currently trying to figure out if I'm going to go to main stage or not. So I'm just wondering how y'all felt about that. I felt pretty good about it. I think things went decently well. I was wondering, of course, Jay specifically, maybe if you had any ideas of like, what are the potential advancements? Like, what were the shortcomings, if any, and what we're going to see in the future for majors in Melee?
First of all, also thank you for volunteering at Riptide.
Yeah, it's a great time.
Really appreciate like you showing up and doing the things, and I was like, oh, teamwork is so good. But yes, thank you for volunteering.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome.
Ooh, the question. I think a lot of the COVID spreading prevention methods that like we put into action at Riptide, it was things we really thought about and really we put a lot of thought into it because like first major back, kind of scary. We were like, is this going to be like a big spreader event? To be honest, I think one specific thing that Riptide had that I think should be an advancement for just really tournaments with COVID is the amount of space we had. Even like just in the general venue area, like there's so much space in between like the tables with the setups. But even like if you go like backstage, it's like, oh, there's like a really good amount of space so that like production has like enough space and like the people warming up in the back has enough space. It also helped with avoiding too much crowding around tables. So like past events where I helped out, like I remember what is it? Gensis 6? Gensis 6. It was so hard to like weave and swim through the crowd, basically. Because, just a lot of people crowding around like tables and setups. But Riptide had a lot of space. That was amazing. COVID spreading prevention methods. I think other stuff that we put a lot of thought into is like, okay, how are we going to make it so that like a lot of the things that volunteers will be touching consistently, such as like the laptops provided at the check-in desk, the laptops for like putting in data, the clipboards for like pools specifically, that even down to like, oh, people are touching pencils, and these are like mechanical pencils. so I really will sanitize every single pencil someone uses and brings back. Was really just like, okay, I know sanitizing these things, either myself or delegating it to someone, will take time. It's a thing, but I think it's like a necessary step when it comes to like, wow, we're coordinating like many volunteers. I can't remember, like 70, 80, 90 maybe.
Wow.
But like a lot of things that people were touching, we did our best to be like, okay, how do we lessen the amount of contact, like indirect contact people are going to have with each other when it comes to like volunteers doing their shifts. Yeah, and just, really providing just like a fuck ton of just materials, like it's hand sanitizer stations. Every single check-in desk had like a pile of like wipes to use. TO desk specifically like masks for anyone who needs. What else? There was just a lot. Oh, Smash GG sent us these cute little portable pocket hand sanitizers. Amazing. Greatest. It was the greatest thing I witnessed. One of the greatest things I witnessed that weekend, and I was just blown away by like this tiny object, but that was really cool. But like, yeah, I felt pretty good at Riptide. I think space is one of the biggest thing, other than like things and materials provided for like people to use, and also like lessen contact people have with each other as much as possible.
Yeah, I mean, the space thing is really interesting to me, right? Because people are, like you said, they're crowding around. They're often getting really warm and stuff like that. There, I mean, there's a lot of value that comes from that anyway. That just makes a tournament better, I think. So that's a really cool innovation, just in general, to come from that. So, did you find when you were creating more space that you had to give up something like an artist alley or set up space or anything like that?
I don't feel qualified to fully answer that question because they brought us on like a month out, and they were like, well, here's our floor plan. And it was like,
I
oh,
see.
cool. And then we worked around that basically.
I
But like
see.
it was already laid out really well.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious what if there were any serious trade-offs with that. But I do think it's valuable to have done that. And I am not a TO, and I think Jade has answered everything really well. So I don't really have anything else to contribute. Toph?
I went to Riptide, and I have taken a COVID test since then. I did not catch COVID. So whatever they did,
Same.
I got out on the other side. Now, it's funny, I did get sick, but I got normal sick, not COVID sick. Whatever, it happens. I mean, I got like 3 hours of sleep every night because of circumstances. So I think I think my body was just having a tough time.
The chillin' party. Well, the chillin' giveth.
Chillin' party. Well, it wasn't even, chillin' was whatever. It was actually the fly on the first night that really fucked me.
Oh, that's right. I remember you talked about
the fly buzzing around my head. Yeah.
Oh,
It's very sad when you turn your left and you like look out the window and the sun's rising and you still haven't fallen asleep and you're like,
it's tough.
Oof, yeah.
This is like, that's like a bad feeling. And yeah, I think I just got sick, which, hey, that's cool. Haven't gotten sick in a while. So yay. That's right. Not COVID. That's positive, so whatever, we'll take it. It's fine.
Sure.
But yeah. I didn't catch COVID, so I can't argue with results.
Yeah, I don't know if there's much else to be said about this, but I do think it's a fair question, and I appreciate you calling in with it, Snick.
I will I will add that this was a concern because there was an event in, I believe it was Florida, in June or July that I'd seen people were pretty bad about like mask usage in terms of the stream, like if you looked at the stream footage and stuff. And people were, I would say, I mean, I'm sure Jade has, instances of people kind of violating this either out of negligence or whatever, but I would say that overwhelmingly most of the people I saw at Riptide did a very good job with their masks.
Oh yeah, like staff jurisdiction to just yell at people if they're not wearing their mask correct, and if they give us shit, we do have jurisdiction to like call security or like be like, you need to if it's like a big whole thing, it's just like, okay, well, like if you're not gonna abide by our rules, like goodbye.
Yeah.
But like I think that was honestly was like a big thing because people like passively, just be like, it's fine, it's whatever. But like when you're like, I don't want to say called out, but when you're like directly told by a staff member, like, hey, can you pull that over your nose? It's like,
Right.
oh, okay, I'll do it. And like I yelled at so many people. I got really emotional. Not gonna lie. First day I was like, oh my gosh, so many people are not doing the thing. It got to the point where like Friday night and like Saturday, like I guess I yelled at so many people that like there would be times where I'd just be like going around and then people who aren't wearing their mask correctly like look at me and then they fix their mask. And I was like, wow, that's really powerful, but also really great because like my voice is lost from just yelling at people on Friday. So this is fine. I'm cool with that. But
right.
yeah.
Well, shout outs to Safety and shout outs to you, Snack, for calling in with the question. Much appreciated, gamer.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm really glad we talked about this. Got all the the big people to talk about something that's really important. So for all the people at home to know about it. So yeah, I guess my shout outs are just you, Jade, and all the other staff at Riptide. Y'all are awesome. And also Peanut Phobia 20% and all the other MDVA homies out there.
Heck yeah.
Love Pinophobia.
All right.
All right, peace
Take
out.
care, Snack.
All right, I think that's our last caller for the day. It's some juicy ones today.
Yeah, some good ones for
Mhm.
sure.
Some juicy ones.
Jade helping us get some good questions. Thanks, Jade, for that.
I think something about Jade's
you for having me
intellectual
on.
aura is attracting these. You know what I mean?
Must be
These
it.
sorts of questions. Yeah,
Must be it.
which I'm really into.
For sure. Totally fair and valid point, Toph. And I mean, I want to really touch back on something we talked about here at the beginning of the show today. I want to touch on it here at the end again. I said Jade and I were talking a little bit before the show started, and Jade, I think your story, is you're coming up as a TO, and I think that's wonderful. And I think you talked about all these things you're optimizing and working on and learning, and I think that's fantastic. But at the same time, you're also doing this as a non-binary person, and you were telling me that as you were rising as a TO and learning more about how you fit into the community, you were learning more about how you fit in your own skin. And I'd love to hear as much as you're willing to share about that for people out there, if that's okay.
Yeah, it was really interesting in the sense of like me 2015, 2016. I'm not only new to TOing, I'm new to Melee, and so I'm just this fresh face random person who's like, hi, come to my tournaments. And people didn't really know me, and at the time it was just like, I'm running weeklies, this is sick. And then really late 2016 is when I don't want to say realize I was trans, but like I was openly trans, and I was like pretty open about that. But like, hi, yes, please. I changed a single letter in my name, and also just if you're having trouble with they/them pronouns, just I don't know, pretend I'm two people. I play Ices. But like, it was honestly really hard, really difficult at the time. It both like me being kind of new in the community and like not knowing a whole lot of like what's going on. I didn't know any other like trans people who were in like NorCal Melee or like at least like the NorCal Melee that was my little scene of like Bay Area specific. And so like it was a little bit of a struggle, not in the sense of like not only in the sense of like, oh, people are like getting used to this, but it's more of like a lot of, I would say like 2017, 2018, a lot of it I realized like, oh, more people are coming to my events. That's sick. But I realized a thing in that people started respecting me and respecting my pronouns and my name. When I say people, I mean like the general broad homies always were homies, but like the general broad community. People started respecting that about me once I quote like proved myself and proved that my events are good, that I ran good events there in that space, and like I was like, oh well, at least people are getting better. And then like now I'm sitting back, I'm just like, wow, that's kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
Like if my if like the test of like, oh yeah, is this something I'm gonna make a very small amount of effort on, is like, because like, oh yeah, I mean like you're the TO of the tournaments I want to go to, and you know, don't piss off the TO. So like, of course I'm going to just be like, well, yeah, sure. You know?
Yeah, you
But,
shouldn't.
yeah.
You shouldn't
sorry,
feel
go
like
on.
your performance as a TO is tied to people giving you a base amount of respect.
Yeah. Oh, it was rough, but I would say like towards the end of like 2019 or onwards, like it got a lot better. I think part of it is contributed to the fact that it's just like not that I knew more people in the community, but like I had been around like a good amount to where like people got used to just using my pronouns correctly. And also partly because like that was also the era where I started like not introducing myself, but like not reaching out, but like getting to know more of like the broader Melee community outside of just like my small NorCal region. And it was like, oh my gosh, trans people in Melee, imagine. And then like it was a thing, and I was like, oh my god, people are so cool. And like nowadays, like there's Gayle. There have been times like at my events, like I've had like trans players come up to me and have been like, oh yeah, like I started wearing my pronoun pin to tournaments after I saw you wear your pronoun pins. I'm like, oh my god, thank you, but also like go you. And I think it's just like a general cultural thing of just like, oh, they're just being more normalized in like they them pronouns and other pronouns. It's just being more normalized, and people are really, I don't want to say more accepting, but like just more down to vibe with them and just be like, yeah, you're just another cool Melee person.
Yeah, that's you. I mean, I'm glad it feels more like people are just doing it, and less that it's tied to your respect of you running sick events, because you know you shouldn't have to run sick events for people to give you that level of respect. And I would really certainly hope that people these days are even if they had no idea that you run some of the best events out there these days, they're still going to address you the way you want to be addressed, but that's really awesome to hear. And yeah, Gayle was Gayle Summit, I guess there's been 2 at this point, right? They've been really fun to watch for sure. And yeah, it's cool. And with like, Melee Sad Posts events and stuff like that. It's been awesome to see that kind of not only that level of, first of all, representation, but also just like a lot of creativity, I think, goes into these things, because they're a little bit, they're like, same way with was it the Black Power Invitational that did you help out with that? That was on Homemade Waffles channels as well.
Yeah.
That was sick to see. As well, right? And
Oh yeah, great event. Loved it.
Yeah. Which by the way, I mean, first of all, to run that sort of thing in and of itself is just awesome. But also, like, man, it's also just great matches from that tournament. I thought it was so awesome.
Oh,
Gayle,
yeah.
Gayle, same way. I really geeked out over. It was, I believe, Logan. I saw it was Kuyashi Ryo beat, and then it was Logan Ryo beat, and I got to see how Kuyashi's Marth versus Logan's Marth kind of differed in that matchup, and I thought that was a lot of fun. It's great when these sorts of things and just the beautiful Melee kind of come together,
Yeah, like there was a lot of Melee that I still remember, like watching like first Gala Summit, and then like when I rewatched like the VODs of like the second one, and then like for for Bemi, the Black Empowerment Melee Invitational, like I still remember the pools match of the Falcon Ditto of Bab activated versus Salt.
Salt. Yep. That
Oh
match
my
was godlike.
Literally my favorite Falcon Ditto set of all time. It's so funny. It's so fun.
That
like,
set
it's
was great. That set was
And
great.
it was in pools too. Like, whoa, you didn't have to
The
do
pools
all
were
this,
the
but I
pools
love it.
Yeah. Yeah. It was great.
Oh,
And
yeah.
any
Mhm.
honestly, any melee fan should go find that set and watch it. Bab activated versus
Such a good
Salt.
set.
Salt,
So
by the way,
funny.
I got to shout out Salt. Salt was somebody that I met. Well, one of the many people that I met physically for the first time at Riptide. Salt's fucking awesome. We sat at a TV and we played. It was actually me, Salt, and Logan, as a matter of fact.
Cool.
We sat at a TV and we played for like had to be like 2 hours, something like that. It was a pretty long period of time. That was extremely fun. Except playing Fox Marth against Logan, which is not fun, but it's fine. It's whatever.
Unfortunate.
Yeah. That's dope. It's really cool to hear, Jade. So it sounds like upcoming plans for you, Low Tide City. And then I guess
yeah.
Genesis, huh?
Oh, sorry, say that one more time.
Oh, and then I said it, and then Genesis, I guess, after that.
Maybe, possibly, might be another thing in the middle of that in Genesis. We'll see. Still in the works. We'll figure it out. But yeah, generally the game plan as of right now. Just really exciting.
If I think there's
Yeah.
a TO that's going to figure it out, I think it'll be you.
The new melee head TO of Genesis. That's a prestigious title. You know, I got to tell you, that's
big.
That's
Yeah.
that's that Uncle Ben stuff. With great power comes great responsibility. Yeah.
True.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad I'm not doing it alone because it's the sort of challenge that's like good, but also like super scary because like, oh, it's a big thing, like a lot of responsibility. But like, I feel like we're gonna kill it. It's gonna be good. And it's
You've got
Genesis, you know,
Sheridan
like
at the end of the
NorCal.
day. It's
Oh, yeah.
NorCal, yeah. You've got a good team, I think, with you, so I think
Mhm.
it should be good. And I'll see you there.
Yeah.
Toph,
All right.
How you feeling about throwing it to Jade's community voice here?
That's what I was the next. That's exactly where I was headed.
Cool,
do you
man.
have a community voice question for the listeners on the YouTube to drop some takes on?
I do.
Okay, here we go.
My question is, scratch that first word. Who are the TO hidden bosses in your region that help carry your scene, but like should be more known?
Ooh. I have even people that I just want to shout out. You know, I'll save it for the beginning of the next episode when we talk about it. There's definitely, I mean, NorCal alone has a long list of I'll shout out one of them right now. Julian Symington was really the TO when
Yeah.
I started getting into NorCal Melee when I first moved here, and I had the good pleasure of seeing him this past weekend for the first time in a long time. And yeah, but you know, NorCal Melee, I've been involved in several scenes at this point, of course, but it's a great question. I'm hoping we get some cool answers here.
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful question. I'm looking forward to shouting out TOs. I think that's a wonderful thing to do, and I'm glad we got to shout you out today, Jade. It was great to have
That's right.
you on and learn more about you and you know where you're going as well. So thank you for all you do for us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. This was a lot of fun.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you guys out there for watching. Thank you, To, for joining me as well as always. And we will see you guys next time on Radio Melee. Peace.